And welcome inside our CFL studios here at TSN. Dave, Chris, Matt, and Jock. Great finish in Buffalo. We're looking for the same kind of action in Vancouver tonight. It's 7-0 Lions over the Stamps. Let's take you there now. Here's Chris Cuthbert and Glenn Suter.
Thank you, David. Just under 7 minutes remaining in the opening quarter here. The BC Lions with a 7-0 lead as Buck Pierce drives the Lions 87 yards on their first possession, and Pierce runs it in for the touchdown. And the other sub-headline is that the BC defense has been terrific on the first two Calgary series.
Sure has. Henry Burris has had good field position to start both series and then gone backwards on offense because of the play of the BC defense. Already a sack and a couple of pressures. Here's Ian Smart at the 31, slipping, and is nailed at the 37-yard line. So it is BC leading 7-0 midway through the first quarter. First drive, 87 yards and a touchdown for the Lions. Buck Pierce was 4 for 5 and 68 yards. And Geroy Simon, who did plenty of talking leading up to the game, walked the walk in that first drive with 2 catches for 42 yards. They start at their 38, and Pierce finds Thelwell's second catch of the game for Ryan Thelwell up at the 45, and he has 7. And the starting quarterbacks are brought to you by Wendy's. Henry Burris off to a bit of a bumpy start in his first 2 series offensively. Henry Burris coming in with 3,862 yards so far on the season. 20 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. And how about Buck Pierce? They're 73.2% in basically 3 starts in his last 8 games. 10 touchdowns and just 4 interceptions. 2nd and 3. Pierce to pass again underneath Paris Jackson and Scott Coe, the outside linebacker. Winnipeg native with the tackle, and they are going to give Jackson Ford progress at a first down.
First down, Lions.
Let's take a look at how the Lions built this early lead. Tremendous play calling from Jacques Chapdelaine, the offensive coordinator, and a couple of wrinkles in the offensive game plan. Geroy Simon used as almost a running back out of the backfield to catch a couple of swing passes. Thelwell got him down to the goal line, and then naked bootleg for Buck Pierce, and he walks in the end zone. And a first down. Joe Smith off the left side, and Smith to the 52-yard line. And we'll set the BC Lions offense for you. Joe Smith had that breakout game back in week 6 against the Calgary Stampeders. His debut, 138 yards rushing in that one. A win for the Lions. He's in the backfield. There's the receiving corps. Geroy Simon leading all receivers in the Canadian Football League. And talked about Nick Lewis and Jermaine Copeland after they go back and forth trash talking as Trick Lewis and Jermaine Hopeless, I believe is what he said. I think so. We'll expand on that storyline as the evening wears on. It's 2nd and 7. Snap show blitz, and Raheem Abdullah jumps the gun. And penalty markers fly. Buck Pierce quarterbacking an offense that leads in 7 categories in the Canadian Football League. Well, and Dave Dickinson is
offside. Calgary, number 53, 5-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
Is still the starting quarterback for this football team, however, is still suffering from symptoms of his concussion. He drops down to 3rd again like he was against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So it's Buck Pierce, number 1 with the start. His arm is okay. He's got full strength in his hand. And Jarius Jackson will play at the number 2 spot behind him. After the penalty, it's 2nd and a couple. In the double tight end formation, and big Joe Smith pounds it. Remember, it was a short yardage situation that he broke for 66 yards against these Calgary Stampeders in week 6. Well, the Calgary defense may have something to say about what Joe Smith does tonight. Up front, they have Demetrius Maxey there with 5 sacks. He's having a good season in the 3-man front 4. Raheem Abdullah with 9 sacks leads that group. Brian Clark was not in that game against Joe Smith back in week 6. He is now probably the best defensive player for the Calgary Stampeders. And again, Joe Smith just gets back to the line of scrimmage. The only running back to rush for at least 100 yards against this Calgary defense this year. Yeah, but that's a big admission in the lineup when you don't have Brian Clark. I mean, Joe Smith, yes, you don't take anything away from that game when the Lions went into Calgary and beat the Stampeders, and that's the only time the Stampeders have lost on home turf, and Joe Smith was a big reason for it. But Brian Clark was not in that lineup. He, of course, plays the middle of that defense and is the run stopper, calls all the plays. He's in there tonight.
2nd and 10. Pressure on Pierce. Gets it away. Claremont the catch. But unable to advance the ball after the catch. A gain of 6, and it will be 3rd down for BC.
You know, and it was Brian Clark on the blitz. Claremont is going to try and open up and try and get across the middle and get there for a target, but it's Brian Clark who comes off here on the stunt. He's going to come around here and watch. He gets pressure on Buck Pierce. He's the reason that Pierce has to rush the throw and doesn't really allow Jason Claremont to pick it up and run for any yards because the ball is thrown behind him.
So Paul McCallum comes on, coming off a poor outing kicking wise in Hamilton last week. He averaged 33.8 yards a punt. Marcus Howell is deep, and he has improved the return game of the Stampeders, but that's a terrific opening punt by McCallum. 37 yards into the quarter and no return. Tough start for the Stampeders. They give up an opening possession touchdown, and now for the first time in 3 possessions they're backed up inside their 10. Henry Burris didn't capitalize on good field position. Let's see if he can dig himself out of a hole against a revved up BC defense. Short drop and a completion. Elijah Thurman with a first down catch. Tom Higgins told us yesterday, when you're backed up like this, the #1 priority is to get at least 1 first down.
He's got that, and he's got Joffrey Reynolds behind him, and Joffrey Reynolds in this backfield leads the Canadian Football League in rushing by 40 yards over Charles Roberts. So we'll see some Joffrey Reynolds tonight. There's the receiving court, Nick Lewis and Jermaine Copeland doing all kinds of talking this week. Probably sold some more tickets for Bob Ackles and the BC Lions, and there's your offensive line. Jeff Pilon was close.
Play action, Burris just throws it away under pressure from Chris Wilson, and that Lions front 4 has really turned up the heat in a hurry tonight.
Well, let's just go across the board. Brent Johnson, 15 sacks, has 1 tonight already. Tyrone Williams, 4. Aaron Hunt, 10. 1 tonight, or 1 rush. He has 9 sacks coming in and 4 sacks for Chris Wilson. There's Otis Floyd, the defensive player of the month, and we mentioned Baron Miles, and his 8 interceptions still leads the Canadian Football League in the middle.
Starting lineups are brought to you by Tums. Tums tackles heartburn fast. 2nd and 10. 4 receivers to the wide side. Burris has time. Bought a flag. There's Copeland with the catch. And Jermaine Copeland up to the 52-yard line, but this might be coming back.
Brent Johnson was clapping his hands, and Copeland knows it. If the defensive lineman is clapping his hands, it often means holding.
Holding, Calgary, number 58, half the distance goal line. 2nd down, repeater.
Tyler Lynham, the guilty party on Brent Johnson, who leads the CFL in quarterback sacks, already racking up his 15th tonight. Lynham in again because Jeff Pilon is still home with wife Kelly, who's expecting at any minute. And she delivered earlier today. The Stamps thought he might have been able to fly in, but timing was not football perfect. We hope her timing is great otherwise. 2nd and 20 from his goal line. A pump and a go. And Copeland, does he have the catch along the sidelines? And they are going to rule it a completion in front of the Lion bench. And a big first down and a conference with Wally Buono and the officials in front of that Lions bench.
Henry Burris throws this football just behind Jermaine Copeland, hoping that he'll come back to it. We have a nice look at it as Copeland's going to go right down the sideline. See that little change of gears? He gets working on Corey Banks, and there's the catch on the outside. Now he has control of the football, and his right foot drags in. What a catch by Copeland.
Well, we had Simon with 2 catches on the first touchdown drive, and now the other side of the verbal barrage this week answering the call and coming up big. Didn't look like Jermaine hopeless on that one.
No, he sure didn't. And he and Nick Lewis have had a lot to say this week. And G-Roy Simon has come back a couple of times, and I'm sure they've all sold a few more tickets here.
34 yards on the pickup, but now the toss to the right side. And it's Copeland stretching, or Marcus Howell stretching out after the tackle by Dante Marsh. But this all started a week ago on Michael Landsberg's Off the Record show.
Yeah, I know it. It looks very. He do look. You like it? No,
G-Roy looks very when he does it. Whenever he puts his little hands on his hips. There's nothing wrong with being gay, but to each man his own. Calgary, we're coming for you. Copeland, we're gonna bust your ass.
That was Saturday at the Hall of Fame game on the sidelines. Oops. 2nd and a yard, and the Lions defense flying over the line of scrimmage ahead of the play.
Yeah, so, you know, a lot of trash talking going back and forth, and that does help to get things going for a big football game, and it probably sold a lot more tickets, but will have nothing to do with the outcome of the game. Number one,
Offside, BC number 6, 5-yard penalty, first down.
Bobby Glatt.
number one, these players that are involved, Nick Lewis, Jermaine Copeland, G-Roy Simon, they don't play on the field at the same time. They're all receivers, so they're not ever going to play against each other. And last time I checked, there are no points awarded for the best trash talker.
First down after the penalty. And a catch is made by Nick Lewis. But what you've got to like is, I mean, there's a lot of fans that like the trash talk. There are a lot that don't. But already, all three of the prominent individuals in the talking have had substantial gains in this game.
Yeah, and Wally Buono has said that for his part with his team, is that he doesn't mind the trash talking as long as they can back it up. And one thing you know is that G-Roy Simon can back it up. Tom Higgins has a different approach when it comes to the trash talking.
2nd and 5 on what should be the final play of the opening quarter. Here comes the heat. Burris gets it away, and Reynolds can't bring it down. It'll be 3rd down. When we return, that's the end of the opening quarter here at BC Place Stadium. And just the one touchdown to report as Buck Pierce drove his team 87 yards and ran it in for a major. Thank you, Dave. First quarter stats are brought to you by Rona, proud league-wide sponsor of the CFL.
Well, Buck Pierce got things going for the BC Lions. They have 8 minutes, 59 seconds of time of possession, largely because of the first quarter production. And now Henry Burrs has got a couple of things going with 6 minutes of time of possession for the Stamps.
Notice Joffrey Reynolds really hasn't made an impact rushing-wise so far. 3rd down, and Burkdale's in to punt. And now Cates going in motion, staying onside. It's an onside kick attempt as he angles it, and Smart fields it at his 6-yard line. And Smart up to the 10, and there was a lot of work this week on trick plays, preparation-wise, gadget plays that might happen. Wally Buono closed his practice, all signs that this is a very important game.
Well, it certainly is, and all that trash talking aside, it is a very important game. The BC Lions win this football game, they can start selling playoff tickets. They don't know for which game, the semifinal yet or the final, but if they win, they can do that. The Calgary Stampeders still have a chance at first place, but have to beat the BC Lions in these next 2 back-to-back weeks. So that's what's on the line. So all that other stuff aside, this is the biggest football game of the year for both these teams.
Well, now it's the Lions that are in a hole, and a bad snap back to Pierce in trouble, and he is buried back inside the 5-yard line after an errant shotgun snap from Angus Reid.
Close to 5 yards from the line. 2nd down, Lions inside the room.
Buck Pierce just has to take his eyes off the football to look at the coverage and read the coverage. Angus Reid, he's in that shotgun. Look how low that snap is. Joe Smith, now it's just scramble time, and John Grace gets there.
Grace back in, missed last week's game in Toronto because of a bout with the flu. 2nd and 14. 5-receiver package, pressure on Pierce. Dumps it off. Joe Smith, hot potato. And up to the 13-yard line. where the Lions will have to punt.
Well, that little run by Joe Smith, and he had to catch it 3 or 4 times. Buck Pierce gets a little pressure on him. He's trying to throw this screen pass to Joe Smith. And Joe Smith took a couple of catches, but it gives Wally Buono the decision to make now. Does he give up the safety, or can he punt it out of there? Paul McCallum standing right on his goal line. That little gain at least gives him the option. See which one he decides.
Marcus Howell awaiting at midfield. Longest punt of the year for McCallum, 66 yards. Began last week just under 34, and he will kick it away. And it will be Howell in BC territory. And tripped up at the 51-yard line. Jay Pottinger, the McMaster rookie, comes up with the tackle.
First down, Stampeders.
Stamps will start on the Lions 50 after a 39-yard punt by Paul McCallum. Wally Buono showing confidence in his defense and not opting for the safety. Joffrey Reynolds, the leading rusher in the CFL, met by Mark Washington and company as he crashes down to the 44-yard line. Well, G. Roy Simon embroiled in the verbal jousting all week long, and here's why he took it the way he did.
It was kind of funny, but then, you know, when I think about it, I mean, you know, you think you're, you know, fairly good friends with someone, or you have a, you know, decent relationship, and they say something like that, then, you know, you can take it in 2 ways. You can take it personally, or you just, you know, just let it roll off your back. And I said, you know what? At first I said I wasn't going to worry about it, but then I just said, you know what? I'll fire back and see what comes of it.
Corey Banks with an interception for the BC Lions, his 5th of the season, and Banks is heated up after a slow start on the West Coast.
And the guy that G. Roy Simon was talking to was Nick Lewis, Jermaine Copeland. Nick Lewis was the target on this play for Henry Burris. He's going to come right across here in your screen, and Burris tries to throw it up over top of Corey Banks and drop it into Nick Lewis. He can't get it there. Banks makes the nice pick. The first interception of the game for Henry Burris, who had some problems with that against the Toronto Argonauts.
A couple of interceptions thrown last week, and the Lions just took over the league lead in takeaways. Their 42nd came into the game tied with the Stampeders. First down for Pierce. Claremont, his 2nd catch of the game after being shut out last week in Hamilton. Scott Coe in on the tackle.
Now, Corey Banks got off to a slow start. High expectations on Banks coming into the season from the Ottawa Renegades, where he had a great year with 10 interceptions in 2005, and off to a bit of a slow start as he tried to figure out how he was going to fit into the defense. But he's a pure cover man, now has his 5th interception on the season.
And 25 interceptions for the Ball Hawks in the Lions secondary now. And Sheldon Napaschuk, the veteran Canadian nose tackle, shaken up. He's getting attention, and we'll take a timeout. Big guy out of North Battleford, Saskatchewan, getting attention. Sheldon Napaschuk at the Calgary bench. 2nd and 4 for the BC Lions. And Pierce looking for Claremont, and he's got him. Jason Claremont with the catch over Jermaine Chapman.
Boy, Chapman covered Claremont pretty well on this corner route, but Claremont's going to reach over the back of Chapman, who's about 5'11", 180. Claremont has a little bit of a height advantage at 6'2" and a little bit of a reach advantage, and he uses it right there to come up with a big catch. You almost can't cover it any better.
First pass thrown Claremont's way tonight was dropped, but he's brought in 3 since that for 26 yards and a first down at the Calgary 35. Play action, and Pierce has G. Roy Simon inside the 5. Wes Lysak, the safety, saves a touchdown.
This time they moved G. Roy Simon, put him in the slot back position right here, and he's just going to go straight down the field and just loop in behind the linebackers. Little swim move there to get outside. Now he loops in behind and right down to the doorstep.
Well, Simon starting to bring the 2,000-yard season back into focus. He has to average 111 yards per game, already 74 in this first half, and it's 1st and goal at the 4. Buck Pierce pumped And no wonder the Stamps don't like it. That hurts.
They don't like it when it's in their end zone, that's for sure. And Simon was open initially. He's going to open up right to the left of your screen, but Buck Pierce isn't ready to throw when he does, so he has to bounce back out to the outside. Simon gets to the next opening and is right there to present a target for Buck Pierce.
14th touchdown of the year. That's the CFL lead for G. Simon.
Can he back it up? I think so.
No question about that. And the Lions lead by a pair of touchdowns here in the first half. That'll be an interesting poll result, but Simon says it's BC. Another touchdown for G. Simon after the heat of an intense week-long debate. He's getting the last word in, or has he? He's getting some early shots in. J.R. Ruffin, another big return. Ruffin still going. And they're going to rule him down at the 52-yard line. That's a 40-yard return for Ruffin, who's made plenty of noise already.
Watch how smart G. Simon plays this touchdown, because he sees his quarterback in trouble. He's going to go to the first window here. Here he goes to the first window. Now his quarterback's in trouble, can't throw. He slides to the next window. In behind of Brian Clark, presents a target. And Buck Pierce, as he scrambles to the outside, finds number 81. So far, the Calgary Stampeders have not spent any extra attention covering G. Simon. No jams there, no double coverage down the goal line. Very surprising that Calgary hasn't done that.
Stampeders ranked last against the pass. Henry Burris has got to get their high-ranked offense going. And Wes Keats with the catch.
Stop by number 96.
Keats across midfield into Lions territory at the 53, has 5. The Wally Buono's team sporting a different look tonight. The throwback orange helmets with black paw. And there is a special fundraiser planned around these helmets to be unveiled a little bit later in the season. But so far here in October, those orange pumpkins look like they're lucky. Joffrey Reynolds on second down on the drop play. Reynolds into the Lions secondary and dropped at the 39-yard line by the safety Baron Miles.
You know, there's another little competition going in the game within the game. Joffrey Reynolds and G. Simon, both probably front runners right now for outstanding player in the Canadian Football League. You have to believe that G. Simon has the edge at this point, but boy, Joffrey Reynolds is he's right on his heels, and that's a good run on the drop play to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm still around here, and all of that.
15 yards. He had a 40-yard lead on Charles Roberts coming into tonight's game, and tries the left side and runs into a black wall. Just one, as Otis Floyd fills the gap again.
Pretty
Floyd,
tough.
the top defensive player for the month of September.
Yeah, pretty tough to run against that BC defense. There is the rushing leaders in the Canadian Football League, and there's Joffrey Reynolds coming into tonight, 40 yards ahead of Charles Roberts. Robert Edwards right there. He's close to breaking that 1,000-yard mark, but tough front four and linebacking core to run against. The Lions rank 4th in the league, giving up under 100 yards a game, so it's going to be tough slugging for Joffrey Reynolds, but that's the way he likes it.
BC Lions have called timeout. Henry Burris burned the Stampeders timeout on the opening series of the game. He gets a chance to confer with Steve Barato while Dave Ritchie and the defense get things straight.
It's been tough slugging for Henry Burris against this BC Lion football team, and he's having troubles against Dave Ritchie's defense. And Henry Burris has not beat the BC Lions as a Calgary Stampeder. And the Stampeders have not won here in BC play since Wally Buono was coaching.
Burris was very confident yesterday, though. He said he knows the zone blitz. He was going to expose it and mentioned that he was going to run with the football more tonight. Didn't think he did enough of that last week. On the run here, and unable to find Kenyon Rambo. Incomplete, and that brings up 3rd down.
You know, it's one thing to say that, and I agree with Henry Burris when he says running the football out of passing formations is a very effective way to break down a defense, and Henry Burris has been great at it this year. His pace this year rushing is for a personal best. However, again, that's going to be difficult tonight against a front four as quick as the BC Lions front four. Brent Johnson, Tyrone Williams, Aaron Hunt, and Chris Wilson, for big men up front on the D-line, are as fast as it comes for defensive linemen.
How about those numbers for Sandro DeAngelis, looking for his 52nd field goal of the year. The Stampeder record 54. Dave Ridgway's CFL record is 59. This is from 44 yards out. And the super sophomore gets Calgary on the board. It's 14-3 Lions here in the second quarter. Well, next week, Wendy's CFL on TSN. Friday Night Football has the Montreal Alouettes with Jim Pop as their head coach, taking on the Rough Riders in Saskatchewan. A bigger game now for Saskatchewan after the loss against the Edmonton Eskimos. Coverage beginning at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific next week. G-Roy Simon gets outside again and steps out close to a first down near the Lions' 45-yard line.
So if you're the Calgary Stampeders right now, you're wondering, how do you stop this little play to G-Roy Simon, this little throw to the outside? And one way is to cover man-to-man and have someone track him.
Offensive Player of the Week for the first time after 14 weeks of action. Buck Pierce has gone to the sidelines, and Jarius Jackson in on second and less than a yard. The funny thing about the Simon Offensive Player of the Week honor, Jackson off the left side, flags down. He didn't get it. That was just his 6th best game of the year when he had 132 yards in Hamilton. So he was overdue, and I think everybody knew it. Let's join Farhan Lalji.
Thanks, Chris. Paris Jackson missed about 10 minutes of game time earlier in this half. He is now back in the game. He suffered a hip pointer on his first reception midway through the first quarter. He had to go back inside and take an injection. He had the area frozen, came back out and stretched it, and he's back out there going after it right now.
Jackson coming off a strong outing last week in Hamilton.
20 yards away from a personal best for Paris Jackson and a couple of catches. So he's right there having another personal best year for him. And that hip, a long way from your heart.
Stamps lined up offside, so it is a first down for BC, and out of the bunch formation, Buck Pierce back to the air, has Ryan Thelwell on a crossing route into Calgary territory to the Stamps 52-yard line, and Buck Pierce living up to the billing that Wally Buono gave him. Said he looks like a Dave Dickinson clone who can run, and he's done a little bit of everything tonight.
Well, Buck Pierce in the last 7 games, 1,237 yards passing, completing 73.2%. He's just, whatever he's asked to do, whatever his role has become, he has done it and moved the football. 10 touchdowns. He's only thrown 1 interception in his last 5 games.
Another second and short, and this time Pierce stays in, and Joe Smith has the first down to the Calgary 49 with Brian Clark holding on.
And what this does with Buck Pierce playing so well for the BC Lions in a backup role or a starting role, and look at how well he's playing when you look at those names on that list, completion percentage, Buck Pierce leads the way. And it allows Wally Buono to make sure that Dave Dickinson is 100% healthy from those concussion symptoms before they bring him back on the field. And that's very important, obviously, for Dave Dickinson in the bigger picture outside of football, but for the success of this team as well.
Lions marching again. Pierce steps up, and he will take off. And gets outside, and that's the element that he's even better than Dave Dickinson.
I mentioned the 1 interception in the last 5 games for Buck Pierce, and this is the type of decision that he's made when he's come in the game. And while so many people are surprised that a guy that is this young with such limited experience can make a quick decision like this, see the running lane ahead of him, know he doesn't have a real wide open receiver, and take off and run for the first down. I mean, not forcing the football sounds easy, but when you're out there, it's tough for a young quarterback, and he has shown so much composure.
Paris Jackson has taken a knee again, so clearly the hip pointer is giving him problems. Last week, Buck Pierce took off a couple of times in the short time he was in the game. 2 carries, 67 yards, so he is effective running the football. If you project what he has done this year over an entire season, you're starting to look at him as an outstanding player candidate. He has been that good.
He really has. And look at those numbers. I mean, 14 of 15. He's been bang on accurate with the throws and again, successfully running the football. So moving the team, making good decisions. And a lot of the credit can go to Jacques Chapdelaine, the offensive coordinator, because he's giving him the plays and the offensive game plan to be successful.
Abdullah moves, and let's see if he was drawn by Rob Murphy, the left tackle. Well, in less than half of the downs that Dave Dickinson has played, Dickinson with 20 touchdown passes on the year, Pierce with 10.
56, BC, procedure, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Was the left tackle, Rob Murphy, who moved early.
Dave Dickinson told me that he needs 5 days of no symptoms from the concussion. 5 straight days before he's going to get the go-ahead medically to go ahead and play again. And he's sort of 2 days good, 1 day not so good. That's where he is right now.
1st and 15, and Pierce almost had that picked off by Scott Coe. Stamps outside linebacker.
Yeah, Scott Coe's had an interesting year this year. I mean, we're used to him coming off the edge and making things happen. Obviously very flamboyant the way he flies around the football field and makes hits. He's had kind of a quiet year statistically, just 1 sack coming in. That's really not Scott Coe type of numbers, but he still is playing good football, and sometimes the stats don't tell all the story.
The entire linebacking core doesn't have the gaudy stats that they've had in the past couple of years. 2nd and 15, and Pierce stands in underneath Joe Smith, puts his head down and barrels for the first down at the Calgary 25-yard line.
It's a good decision by Buck Pierce, because I think he wanted to go to G-Roy Simon, but Wes Lysak had dropped from the safety spot and moved over there to double cover G-Roy Simon. Watch G-Roy Simon here. He's working on Kobe Reinhardt. He goes inside him. Reinhardt will trail. Now see Lysak move over. Lysak went over there just to bait Buck Pierce into a throw to G-Roy Simon. Make him look like he's open. And Buck Pierce said, no, I'm not biting on that one.
Lions needed 15. Smith delivers 16 and a first down. Pierce, another quick hitter, Kendrick Jones. Look at him spin off. A great balance from Jones. And another first down to the 15. Before John Grace finally brought him to the carpet.
That didn't look like Kendrick Jones was down by contact, because the contact was made by his teammates that were trying to set up the blocks for him. Out there was Angus Reid from the center position. He gets a good block on Brian Clark. And Kendrick Jones touched his teammate Angus Reid, so he's not down by contact there and can pick up the extra yardage.
A little break dance and a first down for Kendrick Jones. And Buck Pierce over 200 yards passing with just under 3 minutes remaining in the opening half. Smith lines up at receiver, and Simon out of the backfield. We've seen it 2 or 3 times tonight already. This time better defended by the Stampeders. It's J.R. Ruffin. Brings Simon down, and the 3-minute warning given to the benches with the Lions on top in Vancouver. I'll be sure to check out the new TSN Interactive, brought to you by Molson Canadian. You can play along with tonight's game, chat with other viewers, play games, answer skill testing trivia. Just go to tsn.ca at the start of the game and you can play right through.
It's an interesting wrinkle in the BC Lion offensive game plan to have G-Roy Simon line up in the backfield and catch those little swing passes. You got to think there's another play designed when Calgary starts to overplay Simon.
Brett Anderson into the game for the injured Paris Jackson. 2nd and 7. Pierce wide open is Thelwell. Ryan Thelwell inside the 5, and that's another Lions first down. And no answer for Buck Pierce and the BC offense from this Calgary defense so far.
Well, look what the Calgary Stampeders tried to do to confuse the young Buck Pierce. Wes Lysak up there, Brian Clark. Look at this. They're going to show everybody on blitz up in the line. Watch, everyone. There's Brian Clark. And then they drop back out of there, and they're trying to fool Buck Pierce into thinking it's blitz and panic and throw it to the wrong color. He doesn't do that. He keeps his composure and finds Thelwell on the outside.
Lions are 8 for their last 8 in touchdowns in the red zone. trying to go 9 for 9 now. And a pass for Simon. And a flag is thrown. Jermaine Chapman, it was airtight coverage, and it was just a little too tight.
Well, Jermaine Chapman's going to jump over top of G-Roy Simon to swing at the football, and oh no, this was pretty close. I mean, Chapman's in great position, and if anything, there was a little grab there, but that ball is thrown high. I'm not even sure if it was catchable for G-Roy Simon. And that's a questionable pass interference.
When you're the best receiver in the league, do you get that call more often than others?
You know, you hate to say that. I don't think officials take favoritism one way or another, but boy, you know, you wonder because that one was real close. I thought Jermaine Chapman played that pretty well.
Now it's 1st and goal. The jumbo team comes on. Smith the setback. Joe Smith. Touchdown.
Wow.
Big Joe goes airborne. And it's the 3rd major score of the opening half for BC.
Buck Pierce has been efficient in this first half in a big way, executing the game plan, using his weapons, finding G-Roy Simon, new wrinkle by Jacques Chapdelaine, and then using Big Joe Smith, the Joe train, to end that drive. But the Calgary Stampeders are looking at an important minute and 56 here. Down basically 21-3 after this extra point. They've got to get something going.
Lions have won 8 of 9 games, and I'm not sure they've looked any better than they do right now. 21-3, under 2 minutes to go, first half. Coming up at the half, you'll hear from Dave Randorf and the guys, and Brian Williams will talk to Jim Popp once again, but this time Mr. Popp with a different title.
New head coach for the Montreal Alouettes, as Don Matthews has stepped down. How efficient has Buck Pierce been? About 90%, on pace for a 400-yard passing game, has not made a mistake with an interception, and he has the #1 receiver in the league, G-Roy Simon, at 90 yards in this first half, on pace for a huge game after all the talk between G-Roy Simon, Nick Lewis, and Jermaine Copeland. Now the Calgary Stampeders, on the other hand, is it just me, or do they look a little flat?
They certainly do. They didn't take advantage of their first 2 possessions when they started around midfield, and they were the team coming in that we thought would have a little more desperation. They were the team that has to win out to finish first. J.R. Ruffin was the man who provided them with good field position early. 26 yards on that return.
First down, Stampede.
Corey Banks wearing a Mikey has an interception, and let's eavesdrop with our sounds of the game.
There we go. It's going to go down today, baby. It's going down today. Damn, I should have jumped the marsh. Hey, Hank, don't get scared now. Ain't no catch.
That was a catch, but Corey Banks got one himself a little bit later. Let's see what Henry Burris can get done as he looks to the sidelines and hooks up with Elijah Thurman for a catch.
Yeah, this is a big drive, and Henry Burris right now will call the plays on the line of scrimmage. They have to get something positive out of this first half so that they can go in the locker room and try and regroup a little bit, but something positive here. Even a field goal for Henry Burris will be huge for the Calgary Stampeders to try and stop the bleeding.
Going no huddle, Thurman with his 50th catch of the season. And a first down. 4 receivers near side. Chris Wilson with pressure, and Burris scramble. And the ball pops loose. Brown making the ball come loose. It's ruled dead at the 53-yard line. And a gain of 5 for Burris.
BC Lions have outscored their opponent in the first half coming into this one 232-89. They have been fast starters out of the gate. The Calgary Stampeders reeling now just to try and close the gap a little bit before the break.
Less than 7 points a game in the first half allowed by the Lions this year. Second down, and Burris couldn't find anybody. Way back inside his 35. Trying to get away from Chris Wilson. Tripped up, and he underhands it over the line of scrimmage, incomplete.
Well, you have to admire the effort from Henry Burris to try and keep that play alive, extend the down. But he's also probably going to get a talking to from Tom Higgins, the head coach, at halftime to say, listen, we're not out of this game. There's lots of football to be played. I know you're trying to make it happen, and you got to give him full credit for this. He's buying time. He's extending the down, but he's got to be careful with these kind of things here. A little pitch like that goes the wrong way. Now, that'll be ruled a forward pass and incomplete. But if he's not careful, that goes the other way, and then this baby's a rout.
But he has been under siege from the get-go here as that front four of BC is dominating again tonight. Ian Smart awaits. Burke Dales flagged down, and Smart driven back to his 2-yard line. And Smart breaks loose. Burke Dales tried to slow him down, couldn't do it. Foot race, and Smart dragged down inside the 25-yard line. Wes Lysak saves a touchdown, but there is a penalty marker. Now that flag was thrown before Smart started his return, and it is going to be against the BC Lions. And that will wipe out an 83-yard punt return by Ian Smart.
Holding BC number 99. The penalties are derived from the point possession game. 10-yard penalty. First down.
Chris Wilson with the hold, and Smart, who was picked up from the Montreal Alouettes. Gives you an indication of how dangerous he can be.
Yeah, and Wally Buono made that decision. Aaron Lockett got off to a slow start this year for the Lions. He was averaging around 7 yards per punt return. And Wally Buono made a change. He went with Ian Smart. Smart comes into this game around 10-yard average. And that one will come back, or the average would have been a lot better after that big run from Ian Smart.
Beyond the health of the quarterbacks, the return game probably the only element of the BC Lions that Wally Buono was concerned about. And he has addressed any problem spots quickly this year. It looks like he solved another problem with Ian Smart.
Well, he's done it 3 times, basically. He had Sam Young on the corner. He made that change. Didn't feel like he was playing well enough. Went to LeVar Glover. Then with Antonio Warren at running back, thought Antonio Warren wasn't reaching the level he expected, and he went with Joe Smith. And then he made, of course, the change with Aaron Lockett for Ian Smart.
Buono arguing the holding call, which, again, the flag was flying while the ball was in the air and really didn't impact what Smart did on the return. Doesn't mean that penalty shouldn't have been called, but it's an 84-yard difference between where the ball was taken by Smart and where the Lions have to scrimmage it here inside their 5. Right on the 1. So 37 seconds to go. Lions just don't want to make a mistake. And again, both teams have used their timeout. Calgary can't stop the clock.
And that's the importance of the fans got into it early, and Henry Burris had to burn a timeout at the very beginning of this football game. You only get 1 per half in the Canadian Football League, and now Tom Higgins cannot stop the clock, maybe get a quick 2-and-out and get field position for a field goal. So there's the 13th man making a difference. We're expecting a big crowd in here tonight, close to 40,000 for this first place showdown in the West.
Jarius Jackson comes in. They'll run the clock down. He'll push forward, and
Number 7, Jarius Jackson.
that leaves a baker's dozen left on the clock, and they'll be able to just take a knee one more time and head to the dressing room. This has been an impressive opening half for Wally Buono's club as he goes after his 200th career win.
Well, for Wally Buono, he walks into the locker room at halftime and basically says, guys, a lot of the same. Dominant up front, especially the defensive line is controlling the Calgary offensive line. Tom Higgins on the other side. If he can't handle the pressure up front from that defensive line, you got to go screen and draws. Get Joffrey Reynolds. 21-3, you're not out of the football game.
There's lots of football to be played, and it's almost back to the game plan for the Calgary Stampeders. More Joffrey Reynolds might help.
And they have to find a way to stop Buck Pierce, who was unstoppable in the opening half here in Vancouver. Dave? Third quarter. Calgary Stampeders said this game had been marked on their calendar, and they wanted to win a game on the road against a quality opponent. Just 2-5 away from home this season. Well, they've got their work cut out for them in the second half, trailing by 18. Ian Smart dropped at the 39-yard line.
You know, from what I've seen, the Calgary Stampeders have to just grab that intensity dial a little bit and turn it up. And the first thing they've got to do is figure out a way to stop Buck Pierce, who had 218 yards in the first half passing. Basically double that of Henry Burris. Burris with that one interception to Corey Banks. So the intensity dial has to be turned up a little bit for the Calgary Stampeders. It starts with a stop early on in this half.
First down, the bunch formation to the right side, the pitch that way, and Joe Smith being tackled after a yard.
And again, football is always a game of adjustments on the fly, and teams will go in at halftime and try and figure out, okay, what did they do in the first half and how do we change it? For Denny Crehan, the Calgary Stampeders defensive coordinator, you know, Joe Smith is a concern. They established, the Lions did early in that first half, but he hasn't really been double-teaming G. Simon defensively. They've allowed G. Simon to find the holes in the zone. What does Denny Crehan do now to maybe double up on G. Simon?
Passing situation, 2nd and 9. Pierce drops back, looks over the middle and overthrows Jason Claremont, and it's picked off. And Tony Tiller, the former BC Lion, has his 4th interception of the year. So Tiller, the dime back, and that's a sweet interception for him against his old team.
Oh, and he plays it real well because he takes his time getting back to the middle. Tony Tiller is right there, and what he's going to do is just drift back in here and then become the free safety. Now, Buck Pierce overthrows this football a little bit. I believe it was Jason Claremont, the intended target over the middle, and there is Tony Tiller sitting right center field with that interception.
2 of his 4 picks have come against his former team. The Stamps get a much-needed break. Let's see if they can capitalize. The throw back to Joffrey Reynolds, incomplete, and again, heat on Henry Burris.
See, this play doesn't work if Chris Wilson doesn't bite. See, what the Calgary Stampeders are trying to do is use Joffrey Reynolds as a ruby-eyed wobbler and hope that Chris Wilson is the salmon. See, Reynolds is going to try and come up into the line of scrimmage right here, and if you don't see this coming from Chris Wilson and he doesn't bite on that run fake, then Henry Burris in trouble. There's the run fake, and Wilson said, I'm not going to Joffrey Reynolds. I'm taking you.
That ruby-eyed thing, is that lure we got last year?
That's
we got one of those. Yeah. 2nd down and 10, and that pass incomplete as Henry Burris couldn't find Jermaine Copeland.
Boy, this has been a game so far for the Calgary Stampeders offensively of missed opportunities, because you mentioned early on how Ruffin had set up good field position for Henry Burris. First couple of returns of this game for the Calgary Stampeders were basically their offense started at midfield. Never got anything out of it. This is another big play by Tiller to get the interception, get some momentum, and the Calgary offense just can't capitalize.
The only silver lining now is if Burke Dales can pin the Lions deep. Smart back, and this kick going out at close to the 20-yard line. So just a 30-yard punt by Dales. Lions lead the league with the fewest giveaways. The interception by Pierce, their 23rd of the year, and they got away unscathed and go back to work on offense. Joe Smith with 8 hard yards before he's brought down by Scott Coe and John Grace.
Calgary Stampeders, you talk about adjustments, and the BC Lions are going to try and run the ball, but look what they have right now with G. Simon. G. Simon is just trying to get a blocking angle here. That's not real spectacular, but it's one-on-one with Reinhardt. No safety help over the middle. And you can bet that the BC Lions will go back to that formation and create the one-on-one with their best receiver again.
It's like one-on-one against Cedric Williams this time. Pierce going the other way, and Kendrick Jones climbed the ladder to pull that down. And the first down grab by Jones.
Big catch by Kendrick Jones, who has to climb the ladder to go up and get it. And you always think the receiver has got to be going through his mind, because this is the danger zone right here. There he is there, and he's just going to come down and run the curl right here. Look how he just curls it up. Now he has to climb the ladder. He doesn't know where the defenders are, and he's got to expose his rib cage.
First down at the 42. Pierce looking this way for G-Roy Simon, and he's got him. Terrific catch by Simon. With J.R. Ruffin in pursuit.
Is this the outstanding player in the Canadian Football League or what? I mean, I don't know. Joffrey Reynolds is making an argument, but G-Roy Simon catches this baby on the fly, corner route with one hand. Watch him just stab the pigskin with that. Look at that. And keep his feet in bounds. I mean, his performance, game in and game out, it's been like that all season long.
You know how he has the ability to get separation? He's getting separation in the outstanding player race tonight. 10th 100-yard game of the season. And Buck Pierce running the football and gets nailed. Demetrius Maxey unloading on Buck Pierce.
With the quarterback situation for the BC Lions right now, you can bet that Wally Buono may just talk to Buck Pierce. Listen, I love the toughness. I love that you played like Matt Dunnigan in this game, like he used to play, when never to hook slide and all that. But hits like that add up. And remember, he was injured in the Hamilton game in his back. He still has a bruise on that right passing elbow. And Demetrius Maxey puts a big smack on him in the ear hole.
13-year veteran D-Max. Second and short. Pierce may have to throw that away. With the heat being provided again by Maxey and company. It'll bring up third down, and we will join Farhan Lalji.
Thanks, Chris. An update on Lions receiver Paris Jackson. He has re-injured his hip pointer. They're now calling it an oblique strain. He is out for the game. Now, the Lions are also trying to upgrade the wide receiver position, currently occupied by Kendrick Jones. And Wally Buono is trying to persuade one of his former players, Mark Bolrichter, to come back north from the CFL. Now, Bolrichter right now is unsigned. He appears to have just recovered from a concussion that he suffered during training camp, and Buono's been talking to him almost daily. They had a conversation yesterday. Bolrichter's preference right now is to wait until the offseason, but Buono still hopes he can get him back to BC or into BC before the end of the regular season.
Mark Bolrichter.
Yes, who needs no introduction to CFL fans, especially those in Calgary. Here's Paul McCallum. And McCallum misses the field goal, and J.R. Ruffin's going to bring it out. And flags down as Ruffin dancing around the 10-yard line and is pulled down. So a 46-yard miss by McCallum. It remains 21-3. Getting louder here at BC Place Stadium. An illegal block brings the ball back to the Calgary 3. Long field and a long way to go for the Stamps tonight. From his end zone. Burris unable to hook up with Kenyon Rambo. On Tuesday, the NHL on TSN as the Vancouver Canucks taking on the Wild in Minnesota. Coverage begins at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. Available at TSN HD. Well, it was a 2-and-out after the interception, and let's see if Henry Burris can get that much-needed first down from deep in his own zone here. 2nd and 10. A pump. Burris looks over the middle, and Copeland incomplete and almost picked off by Ryan Phillips.
Jermaine Copeland is trying to get in behind this zone defense. There's Ryan Phillips, who drops back deep. Copeland cuts towards the middle, and he feels Mark Washington coming from the outside. Just gets the left hand up there and really doesn't even affect the flight of the football. And Phillips has a chance at it because of that. So Henry Burris has misfired on his last 6 passes. And on 3rd down,
well, Calgary Stampeders will be forced to give the Lions 2 more points, or else they're going to give up field position that would put the Lions in automatic field goal range.
and if Dales does, he'll put the knee down quickly. You won't see the dancing punter quickly to save every second. They're going to need it now. 23-3. The Lions lead expands. Well, they could have been tied for first coming into this game with a little luck and maybe a different call last week in Toronto when Ron Johnson's pass or attempt here was ruled incomplete. And there was a lot of discussion around the CFL about the ruling. Went to video replay, and even after that, this apparent catch was ruled an incompletion.
Well, over 20 seconds left there, and the Calgary Stampeders would have had a first down. Now, you don't know if they would have won the game or scored after that, but yeah, it sure has been the topic of discussion as to how the reception is being ruled and how the officials have decided to, well, not like they decided this year, but this is something that's gone on over the last few years, that what constitutes a catch. And then this is basically what the league is asking the officials to do when it comes to ruling whether it's a catch or not. And you can see at the end of this quote, we don't measure time in seconds, and we don't count the number of steps a receiver makes. That's important because that's what a lot of people say when, you know, if he took 3 steps, then isn't that a catch? And they're saying no. If you leave your feet, you have to show the officials that you have control of the football even after you hit the ground. And in fairness, the officials have been fairly consistent. Tom Higgins didn't quite agree.
Joe Smith, and he's hit hard after a short gain. Well, to his credit, he may not have agreed, but Tom Higgins did not want to make it an issue after last week's game.
Well, we said it's an incomplete pass. Hang on to the ball a little bit longer. That being said, we also have been told that if he crossed the goal line, the plane of the goal line, he'd have been a touchdown, or if he caught it and he dragged his foot out of bounds and he were to lose it, it might have been a catch. So it's interesting dynamics, but you know what? It's something that you got to get over with real quickly, and we did.
Second down here, and a completion to Smith out of the backfield. He'll be short of the first down as Wes Lysak, the safety, makes another tackle.
Yeah, and you know, so Tom Higgins was saying the right things, and they're right. They're not going to overturn or change the outcome of that game, so they have to move on with it. But clearly, this is a topic that has to be discussed in the offseason and maybe revisited and looked at as to what constitutes a catch. How long does a receiver have to have control? Because personally, I believe that was a catch by the Calgary Stampeder receiver, Johnson. And, you know, it's a very fine line in the judgment of the officials. They have been fairly consistent this year, and so you can give them credit for that. And that's the way the league is asking them to rule on it as of right now. But I think it'll be revisited.
There have been probably at least a half dozen controversial plays like that. Al with the return. And the Stamps will have the ball at their 46 when we come back. We're midway through the third quarter. Well, congratulations to Bill Sajardo of Port Robinson, Ontario. He'll be coming to Toronto for the Wendy's Kick for $1 Million live halftime show on Friday, October 20th. Kicking at the 20, 30, and 40 for prizes. And then from the 50 for $1 million in suits. I think we may have a prospect here, a seasoned soccer player, 6'1", 270, a big leg. We got a shot. And there's a completion to Brett Ralph, working against Mark Washington. And the Stamps, desperate for some offense, get a big play from Brett Ralph, just his 7th catch of the year.
Well, he timed it up well, but again, the timing for this for the Calgary Stampeders, this is the best offensive play they've run all game long because the timing is quick. It's a 3-step drop, and pretty nice throw from Henry Burris to put it in between Mark Washington and LeVar Glover.
24-yard pickup, first completion in 7 attempts for Henry Burris. Pressure again. And Burris finally gets it away, but he's finding trouble locating open receivers downfield.
Yeah, this kick for $1 million deal is good. We got another soccer guy.
Yep.
And this guy's got a good leg apparently. And remember Brian Deesberg, who won the $1 million, he was a soccer guy. And this is a random thing too. So it's like the kickers. He's going to get some help from Noel Prefontaine.
You know, we have this contest, and 1 million soccer players must enter.
I guess we had well over 1 million entries, and Sandro DeAngelis is not sleeping, focusing. Big difference.
2nd and 10. He may be called upon on the next down. Burris steps up and fires a completion. And Marcus Howell with another first down, and this Stamps drive continues.
It's a big catch by Marcus Howell. I love this story about Marcus Howell. He has become a return specialist for the Calgary Stampeders, and one they're real high on. He's a guy who's averaging right now over 11 yards on punt returns, and he's the real deal on those returns. That's a big catch for him. He went into every meeting on special teams to just let the coaches know he was there. Like, hey, if you need me. And finally they gave him a chance, and he's making the best of it.
What happened to the big name guys? First Ralph, and now Howell get things kick-started. Joffrey Reynolds on the ground. Reversing field, but nowhere to go. Not McKay Lozier there. Otis Floyd in the neighborhood. And Reynolds has been stymied all night long.
This is called defensive pursuit. And if you fly to the football on defense, it doesn't matter if you're playing the #1 running back in the game, and that's him, Joffrey Reynolds. Watch how the BC Lions rally to this football when Reynolds has the ball. Look at this. You hold it there. Look at that. You got 6, 7, 8. You got 9 or 10 defenders for the BC Lions in the same area.
2nd and 10. Short drop, quarterback draw. Bad idea. Gets it back. And now throws for the corner, incomplete. Well, the first option was shut down, and then Henry Burris bobbled the football and got to reload.
McKay Lozier on the outside working on Tyler Lynham. He's right up here in the top of your screen. He gets good pressure right off the edge. Watch how he just bull rushes, a little spin move inside, and that's right to the inside lane where Henry Burris wanted to run the football. He almost strips it out of there. Burris gets it again and throws it out of bounds with Brent Johnson on his heels.
So DeAngelis, who you saw focus, now we'll try and zone in on this 25-yard attempt. And DeAngelis puts it through. That's his 53rd field goal of the year, one short to the Calgary record. Lions lead now is 23-6. They take over at their own 35-yard line. Pierce out of the backfield, Joe Smith. And Smith, good extra effort to get to the first down at the 45. A reminder, you can vote for the Rogers Player of the Game in the fourth quarter. Text message your vote using your Rogers phone and send to Go CFL. Rogers brings you the latest MP3 phones, and Buck Pierce and G-Roy Simon, that dynamic passing combination, are certainly up for consideration, but right now concern for Buck Pierce as he's gone off shaking his arm a bit, and maybe a little more of the numbness that developed last week after the Juwan Armour hit.
Well, you see that sleeve he has over his right elbow there. That's protecting the bruised area, which is on the inside of his passing arm. He showed it to me yesterday in the practice, and he had lost his grip in his passing hand. And, you know, for a quarterback, that's kind of important. You have to be able to grip the football. And he still has a bruise in there. He said it's fine. He's got the feeling back in it. It's strong again, but they needed to protect it. Now, I wonder if he maybe took another nick on it. Of course, Jarius Jackson comes in short yardage anyway, but it looked like he was favoring.
What we found out last week in Hamilton is that Jarius Jackson has an upside as a CFL quarterback as Jackson sneaks for the first down. Well, let's take a look at what happened to Buck Pierce last week.
Well, he got off to a great start.
Joe Colon with a touchdown, and another touchdown pass to Paris Jackson. He was lighting it up, and then the hit from Juwan Armour right on the funny bone.
And there was nothing funny about it. And
where the ice bag went, and he's over there. He was over on that sideline again, squeezing that hand. I'm not sure if he may have lost a little feeling again.
Yeah, there was some numbness in the fingers last week. No problem with that pass. As G. Roy Simon has another catch, and again, Simon over 100 yards for the 10th time this season, and back on track for a 2,000-yard season, and perhaps going to take a run at Alan Pitt's single-season record of 2,036.
Early in this quarter, Buck Pierce took a hit from Brian Clark, and this could be where he a little problem with that elbow again. He went down hard on the ground. You see underneath, he folded underneath on that arm. He went down and sees he's shaking the right hand and trying to see if he can get that grip back.
2nd and 2 out of the jumbo offense, and Joe Smith straight ahead.
You know, the feel and touch, I mean, it's one thing, okay, grip, we're talking about grip and a quarterback's ability to hold on to the football and deliver it. But the other one is you have to have that great feel and touch. So if you're throwing a pass that is just so over a defender or trying to drop it in a hole, you need to have that nice touch and feel on that throw. And then if you're throwing a hard throw over the middle, a laser beam, then you got to squeeze a little more and really put your shoulders and your legs into it. So that's all so important for the quarterback. It's on that right hand, but Buck Pierce stays in the game as long as it's not short yardage, which it is now.
And it is 3rd and inches in the late stages of this 3rd quarter. Pierce goes off, Jackson back in.
Squeezing that water bottle pretty good, so that's a good sign.
The silver lining last week, we found out that Jarius Jackson can do more than just these 3rd and short situations. Stampeders really could use a stop. But Jackson will move the chains again.
You remember that hit early in this game too, Demetrius Maxey, when Buck Pierce took off scrambling? I mean, that one again, I believe that was from the left side, but he hit the ground pretty hard. Here it is. Here's a look at it right here. Demetrius Maxey coming back. That's not him there. Here he comes right there. And he went down hard again on the turf on the right arm. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the one that hurt the hand, but that'll cause some numbness all over your body.
You got that right. But he's still in there, and he's still throwing strikes. 23 of 27 for 272. For a guy in his 4th start, as Matt Dunnigan mentioned in the panel at halftime, his 4th start in the Canadian Football League. Pretty impressive.
Well, his season high 282 yards in that start against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. In that game, no touchdown passes. He threw 3 interceptions, so this has clearly been his best performance of the season. Right, Thelwell, another catch and a nifty move. And Scott Coe, who was the first man on the scene for Calgary, shaken up as Thelwell left him in his tracks.
Calgary is playing a lot of zone defense against Buck Pierce and making him be patient, and he is doing that. He finds Thelwell on the outside. That's the void in the zone. Thelwell does the rest with his legs. But again, Buck Pierce is using patience. He has that composure in the pocket. You know, this is a big game. There is a lot of pressure on that quarterback in this game, on both quarterbacks for that matter. And how well is Buck Pierce in his 4th start handling the pressure of the battle for first in the West?
You know, we've talked about it with KC Printers, and the more you see this guy, you wonder if whether Dave Dickinson's healthy or not, if Wally Bono has to consider leaving this guy in.
I don't think he will, just based on past history. If all the quarterbacks are healthy enough to play for the BC Lions right now, then I believe Wally Buono, based on his past history, will go back to Dave Dickinson and have Buck Pierce an option off the bench.
I hear you. I think you're right. It's just we never would have thought it could have been an issue, but Buck Pierce might make it an issue.
Yeah, well, he's making an argument, but you know, when you look at these two football teams, they have the luxury of some pretty good talent in the backup positions. Jarius Jackson looked great against Hamilton when Buck Pierce went out. They got Dave Dickinson and Buck. How about the Calgary Stampeders?
You know, Henry Burris struggling a little bit tonight, but Henry Burris their starter, and at the backup position for them, you have Danny McManus. So both of these teams, and there's Danny Mac, over 50,000 yards passing, with the luxury of pretty good backups in behind their starters should something happen, because Danny McManus can still move the football, and who knows, maybe we even see him tonight.
Scott Coe shaken up. He's gone to the sidelines. Walter Spencer's in. First down, Lions. And there's Thelwell with 6 catches. That's a season high for Ryan Thelwell.
You know, it's defensively, you have a couple of options when you're playing a young quarterback, and one is to send the house. You know, you hear that all the time. Send the house and see if the young quarterback can handle the pressure. The other is drop back in zone and see if he will be patient enough to move the football down the field methodically, or will he try and force something a little bit deeper and then make a mistake and throw an interception. Right now, Calgary is being patient. They're playing zone defense, and Buck Pierce is being patient right along with it.
Back-to-back 12-yard completions to Thelwell. Now on the ground, Smith. Big hole. Joe Smith crashing inside the 10. And a late flag. And it looks like... We'll wait and find out. I think it was Jason Jimenez.
Well,
it's going to get called.
Here's a little concern I think if you're Tom Higgins you should have right now. Are the Calgary Stampeders playing with jump in their step? Are they really flying around the football? I mean, I'm not sure. This is a big game for them.
Necessary roughness. A dead ball foul. 15-yard penalty for point ball dead. Number 60 BC.
Jimenez is cruising.
And we saw him do that last week, and he got an earful from G. Simon. And Simon wasn't talking trash. He was letting the rookie right tackle know that was a bad penalty to take.
And, well, I mean, for offensive linemen, it can set the tone. It can show you that, you know, we're in the area. Don't stand around the pile. But if you go too long, there's G. Simon. That's what you're talking about.
Now Ken Lazaruk throws another flag, and the Lions had too many men in the huddle, I believe. 13 men, and they're going to march it back a little further.
Legal participation, BC, 13 men in the huddle, 10-yard penalty, still first down.
All kinds of formations from Jacques Chapdelaine and this offense for the BC Lions, and all those formations have different personnel, so everybody has to be aware of what's on the field, what formation it is, what offensive set it is. You can see the anger in Jacques Chapdelaine when he doesn't have the right personnel, because that's just not paying attention on the sideline by some players. Now remember, with Paris Jackson out, that throws Brett Anderson in the mix, and that could cause some confusion.
You know, they did have the ball inside the 10. It's now back at the 35. It's 1st and 20. After back-to-back penalties. And Claremont can't make the catch. A late flag here. And I think Maxey took a late shot on quarterback Buck Pierce, and he's going to argue the call with Ken Lazaruk.
And he better be careful. He might get another one, because he's in Ken Lazaruk's ear right now, and Raheem Abdullah has just gone and pulled him away from Lazaruk, or he better be careful.
Major foul, roughing the passer. Calgary, number 91, first down.
And they better get D-Max out of there. He's really riled up.
Well, he went up around the head, too, and that's why. I mean, he didn't hit him hard, but he went up around his neck, and that's what was called. And you're right, he's over there on the sideline to calm down for a play.
We've seen that called all season long.
After the penalty, 1st and 10 Lions on the Stampeders 20.
So it's a first down. So suddenly bad penalties on either side. A reprieve for the Lions. Joe Smith nowhere to go, running into Scott Coe and Randy Chevrier on the final play of this third quarter. The battle for first in the West, and the Lions with the lead. There are the third quarter numbers, brought to you by Rona, proud league-wide sponsor of the CFL.
Look at those bottom two categories. Time of possession dominating by the BC Lions, and offensive plays 51-28 in favor of the Lions, which would indicate that the Calgary Stampeders defense has got to be starting to get tired.
Henry Burris was a confident guy yesterday. He thought that you know, he had the zone blitz of BC figured out. He's put up big numbers against the Lions before, but you say it's not just Henry Burris at fault here.
Yeah, I think that right now the Calgary Stampeders are just having trouble controlling that defensive line of the BC Lions, and Henry Burris can have that defense completely figured out and can't do anything with it if he doesn't have time to throw the football. And right now that BC defensive line is once again, I think, dominating.
BC has the football, the 11th play of this drive. It's 2nd and 11. Buck Pierce looking into the corner, looking for Claremont, and he was in a battle there with Kranz Clements. Looking for a flag.
Calgary Stampeders, pretty good coverage on the top by Reinhardt, who's having a real good season for the Calgary Stampeders. He's got Delwa on the in, and then there's the Kranz Clemens on the out, and was right in the hip pocket of the out and up on Jason Claremont.
So McCallum comes on to attempt a 27-yarder. Well, Buck's going to set it up at the 28 for Paul McCallum. Over 90% on the season. McCallum nails that one. And it's a 20-point BC lead. TSN is your home for NFL Sunday and Monday Night Football. This Sunday, it's Pittsburgh taking on the Chargers in San Diego starting at 7 Eastern. Then Monday, Baltimore and Denver squaring off 7:30 Eastern. And both games available in TSN high definition.
Yeah, this is a nice football weekend, isn't it? With your NFL Sunday, and then Monday we got a couple CFL games. And
Thanksgiving action.
Absolutely.
Have a great Thanksgiving weekend. And by the end of Thanksgiving weekend, it is conceivable. I'm going to get everybody in Saskatchewan mad at me now, but it is conceivable this score holds. And if the Rough Riders were to lose, the Lions clinch first.
That's right. And if this game, the score holds, the Lions clinch a home playoff game, and they have to wait to see what happens with Saskatchewan.
Now, BC with a win over Calgary will finish ahead of Calgary. Saskatchewan still has a shot because they've got the season series with the Lions that they still could finish first. Well, Henry Burris leads the offense out, looking for some answers. Here's how he has fared in the fourth quarter this year.
Yeah, here's the good news for Calgary fans right now watching this game. Henry Burris' fourth quarter has been his best quarter this season. 63%, over 1,000 yards. Look at the touchdown. He has 10 touchdowns of Henry Burris' 20 coming into this game have been in the fourth quarter. That's the good news, because there is lots of time on the clock to make up a 20-point lead.
But unfortunately, there's been a lot of bad news tonight. Trying to change the course of this game. 1st and 10. And this is picked off. Javi Glatt, the Calgary native, grew up watching the Stamps of Alondra Johnson, and the middle linebacker of the Lions with another interception, his 4th of the season.
Javi Glatt lines up right at the middle linebacker spot, close to the line of scrimmage. He's about 4 or 5 yards off it right here. Now he's going to drop back, and he knows that he's got a receiver coming in here. So watch how he baits it this way and then comes back underneath this throw. Absolute perfect drop from Javi Glatt, who will get some consideration, I'm sure, for not only defensive player but Canadian. Look at that pick as he gets right in the throwing lane.
2 interceptions last week in Toronto, tossed by Henry Burris, and 2 more tonight. First Corey Banks, now Javi Glatt. There was a penalty marker at the end of the play.
Here's your foul, unnecessary roughness, number 65 Calgary. After this is the goal line. First down.
You know, and you wonder if Tom Higgins, after that interception by Henry Burris, and again, I believe that the pressure on him has been tremendous in this game from the Lions. Not necessarily his fault that his numbers are down, but does Tom Higgins try and shake things up and maybe go with Danny McManus? At what point does he start to consider that? I mean,
McManus came on in the fourth quarter of their first meeting. It ended 43-20. Buck Pierce Jules Cologne inside the 5, and another late hit. And that will start something. And G. Roy Simon going to play peacemaker, but Cologne taking exception to the late shot. Actually, a couple of markers down.
You know, both these teams know one thing. They play again next week. That's one. That they play again next week. And the other is, he's on the outside, and the other is that they may face each other in the playoffs. And setting a physical tone and a physical presence is important for both these teams.
That was Randy Chevrier, the McGill grad, with the late hit. Out of character for him.
And led with his helmet. That could be a spearing call too from Randy Chevrier. As the player was down on the field and he led with his helmet.
Unnecessary roughness, BC number 60. Unnecessary roughness, Calgary number 76. Penalties balance out. We'll run the play again. First down.
It's a good way to call it. Basically balance it out. One was behind the line on Demetrius Maxey. And again, it was Jason Jimenez, and the other on Chevrier. You saw that unnecessary roughness. That was way late. 3-4 steps late.
But right now in the fourth quarter, it's not trash talk anymore. Smash mouth. First down at the 10. Pierce gets it away. Looking for Simon. Incomplete. Double coverage. G-Roy almost came down with it anyway.
Yeah, go give credit, though, to Wes Lysak, who's playing for the injured Trey Young in this game at the safety spot tonight. He's a veteran who knows that G-Roy Simon is going to be the target down here on the corner route. He's got Ruffin underneath, and he comes over the top, times his jump, and Wes Lysak knocks the ball out of the hands right there of G-Roy Simon. Without Lysak over the top, Simon comes down with another touchdown right here. And that's how you have to cover G-Roy Simon. You better put 2.
Number 42, Khalid Abdullah.
Simon coming close again. He has 1 touchdown tonight. And there are a pair of Stampeders shaken up on the play, and while they get attention, we will take a timeout here in Vancouver. While 2 Calgary defenders collided on the last play, Khalid Abdullah and Cedric Williams, and Williams got the worst of it. Second and goal from just inside the Calgary 10-yard line. And Buck Pierce steps up, takes off, puts his head down, and drives down close to the 1.
Let's go back to that injury quickly. Williams and Abdullah, a collision between the 2 teammates. And you see Simon to the right of your screen, to the left of your screen. Right here, you're going to see a collision right there as they come across the 2 teammates right here. Watch this. And they, on the crossing routes, bang, collide right there. And that's the injury to Williams. He took the worst of that hit. And so the Calgary Stampeders have to play without their starting corner after he collides with a teammate.
Third down, Lions balls on the Stampeders 2-yard line.
So it's 3rd down and goal from the 2. Franz Clements on the corner, and the Lions are going for it. Buck Pierce stays in at quarterback. Handoff, Joe Smith, right side, touchdown! His second of the game.
Why not catch a ride on the Joe train? Jason Jimenez has got a couple of penalties in this drive, but he gets a key block in this touchdown. And Brent Johnson is up there as well. There's Brent Johnson. There's Jason Jimenez right there. Watch how they're going to open up the right side. It's going to take a second, but they set up pretty good blocks on the outside. Lyle Green, the fullback, with a pancake, and in goes Joe Smith. Tremendous blocking at the point of attack.
The 11th game for Joe Smith. He has his 9th touchdown of the season. McCallum adds the extra point. Wally Buono and the Lions in charge. Well, this week, NHL on TSN. Wednesday night hockey as the Canadians taking on the Flyers in Philadelphia. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Also available in TSN HD. A shootout thriller tonight.
Well, you know the importance of like that good, solid fourth-line center as they put the ice pack on the elbow of Buck Pierce. Maybe his night over with this lead.
How about this? Taking no prisoners. The short kick from Paul McCallum executed perfectly. The Stampeders have been the best trick play team in the league this year. Just got a taste of their own medicine.
Well, you know that the Calgary Stampeders would absolutely not expect it in this case, and that kick is perfect. It just gets to the 10-yard mark, and there is absolutely no one. Elijah Thurman, the closest Calgary Stampeder, he had bailed out early to try and go and get a block.
There is a penalty marker down, and the question for the expert analyst is
touching the ball was touched before it went 10 yards.
No, I don't think it was, but they'll take another look.
It's the video review challenge, but the question is why? 33-6.
Well, there, I'll show you where the 10-yard. There is the 10-yard mark right there. Okay, so that's where the ball has to travel to before it is touched by a BC Lion, and it's not touched yet. It's touched right now, and that's 15 yards.
Yep.
An extra 5 yards ahead of the line, and there was one Lion, I didn't catch the number, that held up on the football so he wouldn't touch it.
I guess that's what Tom Higgins was wondering. Did that Lion before the 10-yard line hold up, or did he make a play on the football? But again, are you surprised? 33-6. I don't remember a team with a 27-point lead trying the old short kick when total points aren't at stake here.
No, because the BC Lions win this game, they have the season series. They won the game early in the season in Calgary, so it's not. But this is just sending another message to a team that they play again. The Lions play one more time and may see in the playoffs.
Is that one more for Michael Federick from Wally Buono? I don't know. But he is certainly making a statement. The Lions on their way to clinching their first place in the West for the 3rd consecutive year. And they're taking their time with that challenge. And again, the issue is whether or not a Lion touched it before it crossed 10 yards. From our replay, it did not appear to be the case.
I don't think he did touch it. And that was, I believe it was Lionel Green, the new defensive back put on the roster for the BC Lions, who led up and did not touch the football.
Upon review, the ball was kicked 10 yards or 11 yards, and then it was touched. It is a legal recovery by BC. It's BC's ball. First down.
So it's BC football, and for some reason, the Lions' defense is on the field, and Calgary's offense is on the field. So,
you know, they figured that out, and we showed you the replay. I want to show you Lyle Green and the importance of watch Lyle Green come in here. He's going to come in and make a hit right here. You don't see him now, but on the other end of this is John Grace. This is a guy who has not seen the football all season running the ball, and we were just talking a little hockey there. Look at that pancake hit by Lyle Green on John Grace. You know the importance of that fourth line center on a good hockey team? Well, the importance of a fullback to a running back's success, a tailback success, that shows you how important that fullback block is.
Ian Smart is into the game as the running back for the Lions. Jarius Jackson is the quarterback. And so Ian Smart, who started the season in Montreal, gets a chance. 95 touchdowns at CW Post for Ian Smart. So he lit it up at a small college. And Jarius Jackson lit it up last week in relief of Buck Pierce, as Pierce celebrates his best game in the CFL. nurses that arm problem a little bit with ice. Jackson downfield. Incomplete, looking for Thelwell.
Third down.
Well, they came into this game with all kinds of talk, trash talking both ways. Nick Lewis, Jermaine Copeland talking to G. Roy Simon, talking about the importance of this game, but really getting each team fired up. It's been all BC Lions in this game, a lot more lopsided than anyone suspected. And if that onside kick doesn't light a fire under the Calgary Stampeders, I don't know what will for the rematch in a week. And to be quite honest, this Calgary Stampeder team looked flat in this football game. That is shocking.
Well, they said a lot coming in, but have not been able to back it up. Henry Burris going back in. For every sack in tonight's game, Purolator donates the quarterback's weighed-in food to a local food bank. Purolator, where business is going, and the BC Lions have been regular donators this year.
1 sack tonight for Brent Johnson. He has 15 on the season. You know that Brent Johnson now has 42 sacks in 49 3/4 games.
And this is picked up. Ryan Phillips. Touchdown, BC. The floodgates have opened here on the West Coast.
Yeah, they have. And, you know, back in week 6, when the BC Lions went into Calgary and beat the Stampeders 43-20, it was the first time in Henry Burris' pro career that he was pulled from a football game. And, you know, I'm not putting it all on Henry Burris tonight because he just has not had the time that he has needed to move this offense. But once again, the Lions defense smothered the Calgary Stampeder offense. That's the second game in a row.
The 21 on Ryan Phillips' back represents the points off turnovers for Wally Bono's Lions here tonight. There's not much question right now. They botch it, and Simon's going to try and run for 2. And I don't think he got to the pylon. Well, a rare misfire on the night for BC. Danny McManus had been warming up earlier, and I'm wondering if Tom Higgins changed his mind after the short kick and decided to send Henry Burris back in after that touchdown on the interception. McManus warming up again.
Well, maybe Henry Burris was told that he was coming out of the football game and sort of lost focus because he threw into triple, quadruple coverage for the BC Lions. Phillips gets the interception, but it could have been one of a couple of guys. Once see, there's LeVar Glover was there. Javi Blatt was right there as well. Pretty nice little move by Ryan Phillips in the open field to get in the end zone.
Just going to double check this. I believe Phillips, if he has not scored, and he hasn't this year, we're going to have to check to see if this is a CFL record, but Ryan Phillips is the 20th BC Lion to score a touchdown this year.
Yeah, I got to the house, though.
They're running out of souvenir footballs.
That's depth in the lineup.
J.R. Ruffin on the return.
He's done his thing, hasn't he?
Yep, he's been the best Calgary Stampeder tonight. And it is Danny McManus who, again, relieved Henry Burris when they met for the first time this year. McManus came in, was 4 for 9 for 105 yards, threw a couple interceptions, and the one long pass to Marcus Howell of 81 yards for a touchdown.
And those interceptions, Baron Miles got Danny McManus in that game. Baron Miles has had 8 interceptions on the season, but hasn't had one in 4 games. I wonder if he's thinking, with a little deja vu here, we can come back and pick off the old veteran, Henry Burris. Tough night, 8 of 21, 129. 3 picks.
Out of the backfield, a guy who hasn't got the call much tonight, Joffrey Reynolds, into Lions territory. Just back to Ryan Phillips. He is the 9th Lions defensive player to score a touchdown this year. Now, a couple of those have been scored offensively by Brent Johnson and Tyrone Williams.
2 there for Johnson, 2 for 20, 2 touchdowns.
But 9 different defenders have celebrated touchdowns this year. That might be a record, too.
Wow, there's talent. I mean, there's tons of talent on that side of the football for the Lions. I mean, how about that front foot? Javi Glatt. It's a big move in the middle this year.
And Javi Glatt was stopped on the 1 after an interception return. This year, there's Kenyon Rambo, who's upended. That's his first catch of the night. So the big 4 for Calgary have been quiet as we listen in again on Corey Banks.
Here we go. One more time. Keep going. Put the camera on their sidelines for a minute. Look at their attitude. Catch the ball now. You caught that at the beginning of the year. You know I was going to pick that off. You know it. I still love you, though. I just got to kill you tonight.
That was his old teammate, Marcus Howell. He was given an earful.
I don't know how the guys can talk that much in the middle of a game.
Here's Reynolds again. Joffrey Reynolds close to a first down.
Corey Banks there. I'm sure we're down in the guys down in the truck there were just trying to edit it down because he's talking all night long. I mean, I remember back in the old days, you're just trying to catch your breath. At least I was all the time. I don't know how they can do all that talking after running as much as they do in the defensive backfield, especially chasing down receivers. But you mentioned it, Chris. The big 4 have been quiet for the Stampeders. Jermaine Copeland, Nick Lewis. Lots of talk coming in.
Yep.
Copeland made 1 catch down the sideline.
And here's a guy who didn't do any talking. We thought he would do it with his rushing tonight, and his lowest total of the year. 5 carries, 22 yards. They got behind and got away from Joffrey Reynolds way too quickly, didn't they?
I think they did, because even down by 20 at the half, I mentioned going in at halftime that Joffrey Reynolds has got to get going. If Joffrey Reynolds is not running the ball well and they're not moving the football along the ground, the Calgary Stampeders don't win. Simple as that. They went away from him, got into that passing situation, and then the BC front 4 took control.
Lead now just 62 yards over Charles Roberts. 2nd and 1 with Danny McManus at the controls. There's the 6th carry of the game for Joffrey Reynolds.
Well, I mentioned the trash talking coming in. Nick Lewis, Jermaine Copeland. I'm wondering how it all ended up. It was all said and done. And Nick Lewis saying he didn't like this pose from G-Roy Simon, which we've seen tonight because Simon has a touchdown.
It's kind of the superhero pose.
Yeah, and it was again tonight because, well, I mean, I guess you can ask who walked it like they talked it. And based on those numbers, number 81 for the BC Lions won round 1 anyway. Round 2 maybe next weekend.
McManus over the middle. That's Rambo. Kenyon Rambo to the 6.
And I wonder when this game is over what will be said. You know, there'll be media scrums around that guy, G-Roy Simon. I mean, number 1, he's had the big game, but also, well, now what do you say to your guys across the way? And what did he call him again? What was it again? Trick Lewis and
Jermaine Hopeless, who he suggested had gone missing since moving to Calgary, and maybe they should put his picture on a milk carton. Copeland and Lewis have a week to answer back. And Reynolds broke 1 or 2 tackles, but is stopped behind the line of scrimmage.
Well, they have a week to answer back, and who knows what happens in the playoffs if these 2 teams meet. I mean, certainly Copeland and Lewis have the ability. But, you know, the one thing also about trash talking from the receiver position is that you're kind of at the mercy of your quarterback. And if your quarterback is having an off night or not getting the time he needs, like Henry Burris did not get tonight, the receivers aren't going to see the football. And G-Roy Simon did. His quarterback, Buck Pierce, had the protection that he needed. And Lewis and Copeland did not.
2nd and goal. McManus in some trouble. And a catch down by the goal line, and a good one by Elijah Thurman.
Well, having said that, big reps here for Danny McManus, important reps, I should say, in that could he plant a seed in Tom Higgins' mind if he moves the football like he is right now? And I know it's a different time in the game, the defense not playing maybe with the same intensity. You have to bring that into the picture, but could he plant a seed to Tom Higgins saying, you know what, if Henry Burris is struggling in the next couple games, it's not bad to have the 50,000-plus guy go in as a changeup.
Well, there'll be plenty of discussion of that this week, because now first place is not the issue. Maybe a home field playoff game is for Calgary. Saskatchewan will be back in the hunt with this loss. Trying to get a home date. Joffrey Reynolds stopped, and the Lions fired up. 3rd and goal, and they didn't get it. And it's been that kind of night for Calgary. It has been a thorough BC Lion victory tonight.
And a lot of backups in there on defense right now for the BC Lions. And Javi Glatt and Jay Pottinger come up and make pretty good plays from the linebacking spot. There's one, there's the other. And watch how they come in. Pottinger will take on the block. Javier Glatt shoots the hole, and he's first contact on Joffrey Reynolds. And Reynolds does not get an inch.
Last 3 possessions, 2 interceptions, and a turnover on downs for the Stampeders. And the BC Lions came into the game #1 in giveaway, takeaway. They are now plus 24 for the year. Calgary was second at plus 16. They're down to plus 13 with tonight's defeat. And just under 4 minutes remaining. Jarius Jackson from his end zone, and this is picked off. An interception by Kobe Reinhardt. And the Stampeders will get another chance to punch it in.
Kendrick Jones was the intended target, and he didn't look back. He didn't think that Jarius Jackson was going to go to him like he was the decoy on the play to the left of your screen. And Reinhardt had his eyes on the football the whole way. He just let Kendrick Jones run by him. And then he sits down underneath him, and Jones didn't even see it. He didn't come back to help his quarterback at all. Calgary will get a chance to put some points on the board.
It's the 7th interception for Reinhardt. He is now 1 off the CFL lead of Baron Miles, and Miles was miles ahead about 4 or 5 games ago. Hasn't had a pick in the last 5. So another chance for Danny McManus and company to
Well, a whistle blew, but it was hard to hear with the crowd, and it looked like Joffrey Reynolds just took the ball and went, whoa. It just kind of stood there with 2 Lions standing right in his tracks.
I'm not sure that was an official's whistle, and they're going to confer now.
Well, they're gonna take a look at it, but this, I didn't hear the whistle, so it looked like Joffrey Reynolds took this ball and went, okay, I got it. Oh, look at this. No, not again. And he just stopped right there with Otis Floyd and Aaron Hunt standing right at him.
Well, earlier this year, we had a Jason Claremont touchdown called back on a whistle in the stands that caused a lot of discussion.
I get the feeling that Calgary wants to score a major here. They're going to have to throw the ball to do it.
It is first down, so that play never took off. And now Reynolds kicks it outside, racing for the corner, and dropped at the 1. That ball loose, but they're ruling him down at the 1-yard line.
Well, he got a good bounce to the outside. Mark Washington out there got all tied up and almost got the corner. See some of the backups in that picture. There's Pottinger right in there. He gets caught in the mix. There's Washington trying to track him down.
Reynolds now with 29 yards on the night with under 3 minutes to play. Well, Danny McManus in trying to make this look a little bit better. So far this year, BC has outscored Calgary 82-26. And this will be the only team Calgary will not have a 500 or better record against this year. on the verge of 0-2 and trying to make it feel a little better. Reynolds in for the touchdown. His 8th of the year.
Reynolds powers over that left side. Yeah, you mentioned the Calgary Stampeders and their struggles against the Lions. The Lions have had the similar struggles against Saskatchewan.
And Calgary won their season series with the Rough Riders.
Yeah, it makes it interesting come playoff time, but it's a run by Joffrey Reynolds, who probably was ignored a little too soon from the Stampeder coaching staff in this game, but they did fall behind early.
Extra point is at it. It's 39-13. NASCAR fans, the race for the Nextel Cup continues. Tune in to TSN Sunday for the UAW Ford 500 from the Talladega Super Speedway. Coverage begins at 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific. Available in TSN High Definition. The Calgary Stampeders were one of the best, if not the best, road team in the CFL a year ago when they were 5-4. The Tom Higgins team is going to drop to 2-6 away from McMahon Stadium. And I know they came into this game talking about winning on the road against an elite team to help bolster their confidence and their swagger, but it hasn't happened here, and this may be the turning point of the season for Tom Higgins' team, because either they're not as good as everybody thought, or else this is the ultimate slap in the face to get them going.
Well, the Lions are as good as everyone thought. That's the first part of that, I would think. And also, the concern for Tom Higgins is not the loss today. That happens, and their road record not good. But I don't think the team came out with intensity. That would be a concern. You know, you're on the road in a game of this magnitude, and you don't really see a flat team come out of the locker room. That's got to be a concern for Tom Higgins. I think when he looks at the film, you know, were they jumping around, flying to the football? We saw a couple of plays on defense for the BC Lions that they had 7, 8, 9 guys around the ball. And I didn't see that with Calgary. You saw defensively one guy trying to make a tackle here and there, and then the offensive line didn't hold up for Henry Burris. So, you know, those are the concerns I think that Tom Higgins will have looking at next week when they face the very soon BC Lions. On the other hand, Wally Buono clinches a home playoff game with this win, no matter what happens with Saskatchewan.
And in all likelihood has finished first for the 3rd consecutive year. We know he'll be celebrating his 200th career coaching victory tonight. And Ian Smart gets some time as the running back. Well, it all started with the talk a week ago, and G. Roy Simon getting the last word tonight. And here was his last word on Mr. Copeland and Mr. Lewis.
Jermaine's a good receiver, but he hasn't done anything in Calgary. He said he was going to get 2,000 yards in his press conference when he signed. He might not even get 1,000 this year. Nick Lewis is a good receiver, but he doesn't scare anybody. So, you know, they're good receivers, and they have a good group, and they can do good things as a group. But individually, you know, I don't see them as being that great receivers.
Now we should say that G. Roy Simon gets the last word, not because we're playing favorites here in this whole trash talking back and forth deal, but when you looked at those numbers early on, G. Roy Simon earned the right to have the last word with 8 catches for 120 yards and 1 touchdown.
To me, BC wraps up first place in the CFL West tonight, and 81, your guy, wraps up the Outstanding Player of the Year award. I thought if Reynolds had a dominant night tonight, it might change everybody's mind, but it's getting close to clinch time for G. Roy Simon this season.
Well, the other thing that voters for that will have to consider is that the Lions, if they do wrap it up this weekend, again, we're not certainly not ruling out the chance of Saskatchewan winning against Montreal, but you know, they have a home field playoff game. They have basically first place close to locked up here. And does G. Roy Simon rest a little bit? Does Wally Buono make decisions that way? And then his numbers are, in the last couple of games of the season, drop a little bit.
Well, it's an interesting dilemma, if you will, because he has a chance to go after Alan Pitt's record. He's likely going to set a new standard for the Lions, a record he already owns. Jarius Jackson on 2nd down took a hit but delivers another pass to G. Simon. And now they're saying incomplete, and G. not going to argue it. He sold it pretty well.
Yeah, he did.
Let's take another look.
I thought he had that, and he actually came up with the ball and handed it to the official, and he told us he would do that. And here it comes over the middle. Well, it looked like it might have hit the ground as he rolled it. Yeah, I did, and he pulled it over from the side. So.
And here's the issue you just raised. G. a little slow to get up, and he's limping off. It doesn't look serious, but you know how many didn't look serious when Milt Stegall went out last week. In fact, when we watched him, he finished the game and now is not going to be available for the Bombers. So, well, in a game that was well in hand, you wonder if that was worth the gamble.
Well, with G. Simon out there on the field, he's going to give you that effort anyway. So that's got to be the coach.
80 seconds remaining in the longest night of the season for the Calgary Stampeders. Dick Lewis with a catch. And it's time now for the Friday Night Gladiator, brought to you by Castrol. More than just oil, it's liquid engineering.
When you weigh the importance of this game, when you weigh in the fact that it's the fourth start in the young CFL career, and then you add that Buck Pierce was injured early again on that right passing arm and had problems with grip, and then you look at the numbers and how he moved the football team, Buck Pierce, I salute you.
Call. And here is Marcus Howell digging out at the 40-yard line of Calgary, or BC.
You know, I mean, just the magnitude alone of the game, the pressure of the game. How many times have we seen young quarterbacks just lay an egg? And what Buck Pierce did was lay a licking on the Calgary Stampeders.
Jason says something. That's all Buck's friends in California. My family's here right now.
Another former Gladiator sitting right beside him, Jason Claremont, who took the Gladiator Award in a Montreal game over in Montreal.
Every time in, he gets the job done. Elijah Thurman has one go through his hands in the final minute.
As should, just with that G. Simon with his knee, and we hate the game that's done. That's the one concern of a coach, is that once the game is in hand, you lose an injured player. It looks like Simon will be okay, but he was holding that knee. Now, I should say, in fairness to Wally Guano, that he did lose Paris Jackson with a hip pointer early, and you know, it's a limited roster, and maybe he really didn't have an option to take G. Simon out of the game. And once he's in there, you're going to get full effort from Simon.
2nd and 10. Quick hitter. Picked up. Bobby Glatt's got another. Or check that, Baron Miles. And Baron Miles ends his drought. Wally Guano had a discussion with Baron Miles a little earlier, and I think they're laughing because he was left in there to maybe get that pick.
Well, he jumped it. He saw this quick passing game that Danny McManus has gone with his whole career to get the football out of his hands in a hurry. Baron Miles got a very similar interception against McManus when he came in the game earlier in the year. And yeah, they must have had something going on, because there he goes. Wally Guano saying, there you go, number 9 on the season, as Baron Miles gets that much closer to 50 interceptions in his career.
Yeah, and he restores that 2-interception lead over Kobe Reinhardt, who picked one off earlier. But you don't usually see that big a celebration on an interception in the final minute of a 26-point game. I think there was a little extra on that one.
Yeah, there's a side bet there.
It's Smart, another carry, and he's hauled down by Mark Mitchell.
Take a look at linebacker. Sorry, Chris. Take a look at the West Division here, though, and you got the Lions, as you mentioned, basically locked up first place in the West. They struggle with Saskatchewan. That might be the sleeper in that bunch.
Rough Riders, even in the loss column with Calgary now. They've got back-to-back with Montreal. Still have to go to Toronto and finish with Edmonton. And the Eskimos still within reach of the postseason, considering that game against Saskatchewan and the potential of winning their season series. And now the Lions are going to run the clock down.
Well, it's in reach, but the Eskimos have to jump. You know, they can't just stand there and reach for it. They're going to have to just use all their vertical to get up there. Now, Saskatchewan, on the other hand, home field playoffs, not out of the round there.
Yeah, it becomes a big possibility again. Everybody in Saskatchewan talking about the elusive home playoff game. Well, this loss by Tom Higgins' crew has reopened the door just a crack. Final play was not the showdown we anticipated. Wally Buono wins his 200th, and there's no question that the BC Lions are right now the best football team in Canada. Buck Pierce leads the way, and it finishes 39-13 BC.
Tonight's offensive player